A new visitor. They didn't have very far to walk. After 50 feet or so in a dark tunnel, they reached the end. Beyond was another stone room, though this one had a lower ceiling and far less open space. Nightingale scanned the shelves and almost couldn't believe what she saw. The room didn't hold more coins, or more precious stones, or more art. Instead, each little cubby and shelf cut into the stone had a single number carved into it. On each shelf rested something completely unique. Nightingale looked between them with open wonder on her face. Staring at the array of strange objects, she saw a sword made of several overlapping layers, each one glowing a different color. A length of rope coiled upon itself and hissed at her like a living snake, while a little bag of marbles beside it seemed to grow scorching hot one minute before encrusting the nook in ice the next. My God! Rook stopped in the doorway, scanning the room. He fumbled in a pocket, drawing out the black ledger. Yeah, that's what I thought. He turned it to face them. See the numbers on the wall? They match the ones in here. Damn impressive haul, Zeke muttered, nudging the bag of marbles with a cigarette. It gradually crusted over with ice, snuffing the end out. He pulled his hand back before something worse could happen to him. Enough to get someone killed, Remy sighed. Damn, guys, I'm sorry. I think I dragged you into something awful. Nightingale touched Remy's back gently. Relax, Remy. It's not your fault. You didn't know this was down here. No, I didn't. Remy staggered to her feet, eyes wide. Can you believe it? She looked as though she was going to start throwing things onto the floor. I thought maybe it was just information. It can't be, though. This has got to be stolen. My dad's smuggler, maybe a thief, too. She lowered her voice barely above a whisper. My dad's a criminal. Nightingale reached out to comfort her again, but Remy pulled away. She spun, shoving past Rook towards the open door. No more putting up with this shit. Let's go get some answers. Remy, wait. Zeke didn't stop her physically, though he sounded pleading. If he didn't tell you before, finding this place isn't going to change anything. Remy turned, her eyes were wet. But if he was lying about this, what else could he be lying about? Forget the smuggling. We still need to save Nightingale. I'm not going to stand around and do nothing while Nightingale ends up like Melody. Grace is probably investigating all this, but we can't count on someone else solving it for us. If the Black Hand is involved, my dad and Grace aren't even making this thing official. It could take them months to find the killer. We're running out of leads, and Malik might be the last one. Nightingale looked to Rook for help, but found him engrossed in the ledger. She could still see Melody's eyes in her mind, wide and desperate with panic. Would she look like that one day? I can help you find the murderer. The Malama's voice was almost becoming familiar, but still caused her to shiver. Really? She thought back, more exhausted than angry at this point. The room, the shelves full of artifacts, even her friends started to blur into the background. As they did, something else became clear in the air in front of her. The Malama looked much as she remembered it from her nightmares, a cloud of sentient tar interspersed with flickering lights and organs. When it spoke, it never used the same mouth for more than a few words. All those eyes watched her, not seeming to see or care about anything else. I keep my bargains, mortal. Give me control for an hour, and I'll take you straight to the murderer. You can retrieve whatever leads were stolen and continue your search for Theodosian. You swear? She whispered. If I do this, I'll get my body back? Of course. Its voice grated in a discordant choir of a dozen overlapping voices. You can have your body returned as soon as the deal is done. Nightingale. Rook was suddenly right in her face, so loud her concentration faltered. The horrific shape vanished from in front of her, and the room slammed back into focus. She blinked, dazed. What? You were muttering to yourself, he shivered. We found something. Rook held up the ledger, pointing at one column. She read the word beside his finger. Hegemonics? What is that? Zeke grinned. Probably what the murderer was after. Rook says everything else in here got logged in and out. All methodical. Except this. He stepped back, gesturing at a large empty cubby. Whatever this was. The Hegemonics? What kind of artifact is it? Remy asked. Rook didn't get a chance to answer. From down the passage came a distant crash, followed by the sound of shattering glass. He tucked the ledger away in a pocket, then drew a weapon, leading the way back up the passage. Nobody spoke as they crept back the way they came. Nightingale was no exception, peering up through the wooden floorboards. Someone moved above them. Someone she recognized. It was Aisling, the red-headed woman that woke them up all back at the inn, the one who was screaming at Patrick. She dashed through the house, pouring something onto the wood as she went. She didn't stay long, sprinting from room to room and making sure to spread whatever she was dumping as wide as possible. What is she doing? Nightingale whispered. Not sure, Zeke said, smelling the air. Smells like sulfur. Zeke's eyes went wide. Oh no! As Aisling left the house above them, bright orange flames took her place and smoke started to waft between the cracks. Zeke hurried to the ladder. She just lit the place up! He climbed rapidly, shoving on the hatch. It didn't budge. Rook? You want to help with this? We need to get out of here. How could she? Remy called from beside Nightingale, her eyes wide with terror. Smoke began billowing around above them, and the sound of the fire filled the room as more of the accelerant Aisling had poured went up in flames. She probably doesn't even know we're down here, Nightingale added. We gotta get out of here. We're going to burn to death. Okay, calm down. Rook took Zeke's place at the top of the ladder and braced his shoulders against the hatch. Something snapped, and the whole thing flipped open. Bright orange light shone in around him from the opening. Pretty warm up here. Looks like the kitchen is all clear, but flames are getting close. Time to move. They did. Nightingale was last up the ladder, and the smoke was thick in the air as she made it into the kitchen. She coughed and squinted as black clouds stung at her eyes. The fire already blocked the front and back door. We're trapped. Rook spun desperately. Over the counter in the kitchen, Nightingale could see a window. She jumped onto the counter and waved a hand. This way! She waved a hand and the rest moved behind her. Nightingale, be careful! Rook called from behind, but Nightingale wasn't going to wait for him. She could feel the heat on her skin, and her lungs burned with each breath. Nightingale threw herself against the glass window. The wood splintered under her weight, and the glass shattered. Nightingale fell out onto the grass on the side of the house. She helped her friends out one at a time, covering her mouth as best she could. They didn't make it more than a few steps before they dropped to the ground, breathing heavily. Zeke was the first to sit up. Guys, I know we're all in bad shape, but Grace probably has guards on the way, and I don't want to get blamed for this. Me neither, Nightingale coughed, scrambling to her feet. She helped Zeke up and turned to leave. The group set off down a nearby alley and into the gloom. I think we got our next lead, Rook said from the front. Yeah, Nightingale agreed, following at a half-shamble. To Patrick's. I'd like some ale, then maybe some answers.